Hi, welcome to Talking Books and Stuff, the program that talks all about books and writing and stuff. Here's your host, Dennis Rimmer.
It's another version or edition of Talking Books and Writing and Stuff, and with us today from the Hamilton, Ontario area, in fact in Hamilton, we have Glenn Murdock, and he's going to tell us all about his 5-book series called Dorie Daydream in the land of Idoj. I'll get him to explain that to you. Hey Glenn, how's things today?
Good, how are you?
Super, super. We're getting through everything for the last couple of years and hopefully looking for a bright and sunny future. But Glenn Murdock,
I agree.
Yes, you're a teacher, author in Hamilton, Ontario. But let's go back to the very beginning. Where did Glenn Murdock originate and grow up and that kind of biographical information?
Well, I grew up in Chateauguay, Quebec, and lived there till I was about 9 years old, and then my family moved here to Ontario. We didn't move to the Hamilton area. We moved to Georgetown, and I grew up the rest of my years in Georgetown. And then I met a wonderful woman from Hamilton who I ended up marrying and had 3 kids of my own with, and we settled here in Hamilton. We love the city.
And growing up in Quebec, did you speak French at all there, or...?
I did at the time, but unfortunately, by the time I got here, I was about grade 3 when I came to Ontario, and the school I was in didn't support French learning, so I kind of lost it all. So from time to time, it comes back up, but other than that, I can hold a loose conversation in it.
Well, that's good. Better than I can. When you're growing up, you moved around a bit. So did I. But what was I going to say? Yeah, you must have done lots of reading and did you do any writing as a youngster, or mainly reading, or neither one, or both?
Actually, I did a bit of both. My reading a lot, especially when I was younger, was more to do with comics like Archie and things like that. And as I grew older, during my teen years, I did a lot of poetry writing. For some reason, poetry spoke to me, so I still actually have all my old poetry verses that I've written, and I just have continued every once in a while to add to them, and maybe one day I'll publish that. But that's something that keeps my mind going. And then I came on to writing books, and loved it. And this series kind of grew out of a trip I was on one time to New Brunswick, and I was in St. John, and I was bored, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to write a book that involves members of my family, and so that's where the inspiration originally came from, was just being away and thinking about being away, and how this land came to be.
And what we're talking about is the Dorie Daydream series. And how do you pronounce in the land of?
In the land of Idoj.
Idoj,
so
which
Dorie
is Jody spelled backwards.
That is absolutely right. Jody spelled backwards because Jody is my wife. So she helped me create my own world. So the series is kind of a tribute to her and my kids. That's why it's Dorie Daydream in the land of Idoj. And 3 of the main characters are my names of my kids. So my Dorie is actually my daughter. And then there's 2 other main characters who are Renyat and Nelsek, and they're my sons, Tainer and Kesslin, but with their names reversed. And in the book series, everybody that you meet in there is actually someone I know in my life, and I've taken their name and reversed it and made them into a character that's similar to what their personality is like.
Oh, that's great. So you're a teacher in Hamilton, Ontario. What grades or subjects do you teach?
I teach elementary. I teach kindergarten. I've done kindergarten for the last 10 years. And before that, I taught grade 4 as well. But I love kindergarten. I love the imagination that goes along with kindergarten. And that's the sort of thing that drives me, is to help young minds learn to read and to develop what their sense of being and their sense of self is. And that I find a pivotal age. So that's, I guess, why I love it so much.
And where'd you go to university?
I went to university at Murdock in St. Catharines. And I originally actually took politics and business there, and came out and went into the business field for many years. And then Brock is also where I met my wife, Jody, and she was a teacher candidate there. And then we ended up getting married. We moved to Hamilton, had kids here, And then I decided at one point during my business career that I needed to be home more because I was finding myself away from the family for far too often. So I decided to take a secondary training, and I took teaching training in New York at Idoj, and then got my teaching certification, applied here in Ontario, and now my wife and I actually both teach together at the same school.
Oh, well, that would make it easy. And I hope the kids are all at school age or beyond.
Yes, all my kids are adults now. They're 21, 23, and 25. So, but they were big source of inspiration because the series took several years to write, and I was able to help as they grew. I was able to grow the characters in the book as well. So that was kind of really natural.
And we're talking about the Dorie Daydream series. There's 5 books. It says you started writing in about 2012. Is that right?
Yeah, around there. I'd say 2011, 2012. And that was my first book. And then it was a book I completely wrote. I published it, and I wasn't even sure I was going to continue the series. And then I had a friend of mine who was over one day and with her daughter, and her daughter read the book, and she was like, "Oh, you've got to continue it." And she was so excited about it, and just her smile about the book made me go, "Okay, I'll do it." And so I wrote the second book, and that led into the third book. And by the time the third book came into being, I was so invested myself in these characters, in the story, and the development, that I had to write the fourth and fifth and conclude the series. So I had a lot of people who were looking forward to getting those and having the whole adventure lead out for them. So.
And this is all about Dorie, and she's late for school. Excuse me. Cough, cough. She's late for school. The first book opens with her late again, and she wonders what's going to happen. So book 1 in the series is called Tara. What happens in book 1?
Well, in book 1 is Dorie's initial forage into the world of Idoj, and she ends up in the land of Tara, which is within Idoj, and it's her how she comes to that land, and then what happens in that land, and it kind of sets the framework for the rest of the books. You meet the main antagonist, you meet some people that she's going to be teaming up with, and she finds out that in the book there are 5 lands that need to be saved and reunited to become a Idoj whole once more, and there's a special role that she plays in that. Now, I don't want to kind of give that away of what her role is, but it's kind of her quest to reunite the land, and she's the key to that happening.
One person to unite them all.
Definitely. But it takes more than one in this series. That's one of her growing things, is that she realizes she can't do it on her own.
So book 1 is Tara. Book 2 is Juno.
Juno, yes, and that takes the whole storyline from being above water to in the water, and Juno is an underwater city, and there's some major things that happen in the underwater city there, and the ending is something that actually my wife cried when she read the ending, but it's a very dramatic ending. But the whole point of the different lands is to have the different ways that a world could develop, and have her integrate into all of those to see what's going on.
Does Jar Binks show up in the underwater city? Oh, just kidding.
No.
Good.
He's trying to be out of place there.
Right. And I'm just going through the whole series here because it's very interesting, and I just love the fact that people are reacting and have an emotional attachment to your books. So that must be, in and of itself, great satisfaction.
It is, definitely. When I hear people reading it, and then they'll call me up, like even in the middle of the night, they'll call me up and they'll be like, "This happened, I can't believe you had this happen." And I'm like, yes, don't call me in the middle of the night. So, so they are definitely having emotional reactions, especially in the second and third book. There's a lot of twists and turns that have people kind of not divided, but up in arms, like, "Oh, what's going to happen next?" And I didn't see that coming, and that's what I kind of like about throwing that in there. You're developing not only the people and the situations, but you're taking them on a journey that they don't expect.
And book 3 is, how do you pronounce that one? Spira?
Book 3 is Spira, yes.
Okay.
And that is actually personally my favorite book out of the 5 books. It has the most character development in it. And it also has the most meaning, and where things start to really come together, so that you can have some little inklings on how the series is going to turn out. And then starting in book 3 to book 5, there's more and more kind of clues planted in there, until at the end you have the big aha. This is how it's going to go.
And so, without giving away any secrets, did Dorie finish her 200 push-up exercise? No, sit-ups, 200 sit-ups. Yeah.
I don't know if she ever finished that, but she did a whole lot more.
All right, good for Dorie. And book 4 is Mista. It's magic.
Yes.
So the story continues in book 4, obviously. What happens there? There's an evil queen. Oh, no.
Yes, there's an evil queen. The evil queen is throughout the whole thing. And the funny thing is the evil queen is actually named after my mother, so she wasn't too thrilled with that. But in book 4 is where magic starts to come in, and that she needs to learn some magic and to be able to do the things that she's supposed to do. And I'm trying not to give anything away,
right.
But in order to take the next step, she needs to learn some sort of magic and what magic means to the rest of Idoj. And so it takes it from there to the final book, which being Proda, is where the evil queen, that's the place that she resides and where everything originated from. And so it's kind of one of those full circle type of things.
That's great. So all 5 of them. Now, is that the end of the cycle, the 5 books?
That is the end of the cycle, the 5 books. It's the end for Dorie Daydream. There's a clue at something at the end, but I will leave that open for people to interpret.
Okay, well, that's always leave them guessing. Always leave them asking for more. That's what. Please, sir, can I have some more books? Great. Okay, now the nitty gritty of things. You've got 5 books here. They're available all over the place. We'll get your website spelled out in a moment. But how did you do all of this stuff? 5 books. What's your publishing process? How did it all come together? Like, where did you get them printed? How did they get out? How did you get them out to the public? Just give us the nuts and bolts of the process, please.
Sure. Well, when I was writing, as I was writing the books, I was doing researches on different companies to publish with, and the one I came across that I really liked was Lulu Publishing in the States. Because it published very wide, right into Canada and the U.S. And so I used that to actually create the first and second books, and just to see how the feel went. I actually hired an artist from India to do the original covers for the book, and they went well. But as the book series progressed, I realized I needed much more dynamic artwork for the covers, so I hired someone else to do artwork and create what the general feel of the series is just by the presentation of it. And that's currently what's out there now. It's 5 very dramatic covers that really give a glimpse into each of the different lands that are in Idoj, and then you're able to think about what the different pieces of it means. For instance, each of the covers has a stone that's associated with it. There are 5 different stones, and they have a significant role to play within Dorie's journey and the journey of her and her friends, and the way the whole thing transpires out.
Yes, I will say the covers are very striking, and they're all different, but yet they do have that unifying theme with the, I'll call it a diamond shape, but, and the pictures of Dorie on the front are all different. She's in slightly different positions as well, so there's another
That's right, and the key with those is you also see her growing up through the story. So the first book, she's a lot younger. By the end of the 5th book, you can tell she's an adult, and it's really her when it covers her journey there. And time has a critical piece within the entire series. There's a hidden element of time that readers at first aren't onto, and then it's brought out into the light as to why there is such a rapid succession of Dorie's growth. And so she has to catch up with that physical growth. She has to catch up that with the emotional and regulation growth as well.
And your website, let's spell that one out for us. www.doriedaydream.com, but Dorie is D-O-R-I-E.
Yes. DorieDaydream.com. And that's exactly the way my daughter's name is spelled, Dorie.
Dorie Lynn. Yep. Okay. And do you have anything? What's next for you?
Well, I've written a few kids' books in the past. I might go back and do that. I'm thinking something more serious, though. I'd like to tackle something that's opening up, maybe do interview books where I interview a bunch of people in a certain theme. I'm debating different themes right now as to what I want to look at, and because I found with writing Dorie Daydream, I loved targeting the older children audience or the preteens. But I'd like to actually do something for adults now, and something that's a little more. I could put a little more content that would be considered too risque for younger kids. Something that delves in adults and what adults deal with.
So, would you say the Dorie Daydream series is aimed at maybe like, in general terms, the grade 5 to 8 sort of audience?
Basically, yes. I'd say probably as young as grade 4 and as old as grade 8. I think once you get into the high schools, you're probably, grade 9s might want to read it, but then, older grades will probably be past that type of fantasy novel.
Gotcha. And what is a tootle?
That is something that remains to be seen. You'll have to find that out in the book.
That's right. We will leave that as a mystery. Dorie Daydream.
Yes, exactly. Let's just say you don't want to get near one.
Okay. And whiskers also plays a big part too. So we'll let people discover that on their own. So yes, your books, 5 of them, they're all out there. Dorie Daydream in the Land of Idoj, which is Jody spelled backwards. You can get them from Glenn's website, which we gave you, www.doriedaydream.com, DorieDaydream.com, Dorie Daydream. But again, Glenn, with both of you working at the same school, so do you have a standard routine? Do you write every day, or how does that play out?
I usually write when inspiration hits me, and I have an area in my house where I just go to the dining room. Basically, I just go to a corner of the dining room and sit and write when something hits me, and then I just continue to write and write and write until all those ideas and those emotions have flooded out, and then I'll re-edit it to kind of match more of what I wanted. I try to get all the ideas on paper first, kind of like brainstorming, and then pull it all together. Or if it's something of a more emotional scene, there's a scene in the Spira book, which is personally my favorite book. I actually had to leave writing. I had to get up from the table and walk around my city for a while, and I was just in tears thinking this whole scene through over and over again before I actually sat down and wrote it, because it's a very dramatic scene, and anyone who's read it so far has been shocked by it. But it's one of those things that myself as an author, it wasn't just a matter of writing it, it was a matter of feeling the whole thing. And that's one thing I want to deal with in the book, or that I have dealt with in the book, is that whole feeling of, if you're going through tough times, or you ever thought you weren't good enough, or that you didn't fit in, and you didn't have a friend, and then you have a friend in your life, and suddenly something might change. All those feelings that you might be going through, and the empathy and the pity that you might be feeling. And so I really tried to capture that, and based on some of the reactions, people really felt it.
That's great. As a veteran of at least 5 published books, what can you tell us about tips for would-be authors or people just starting out on the journey? What have you learned along the way that maybe you didn't know was going to be a problem or a situation?
Well, I think number one is to sit down and just do it. Everybody has ideas, and that's when people ask me about it, I say, sit down and write it out. Whether it be type it out, jot down notes, just get it on paper. That's a start there. And if you have some sort of mind block, and I've had several of them throughout writing the series, where you get to a point you're not sure which way you want to take it, step away from it for a little while and try to rethink it, or look for some sort of inspiration around you that makes you want to get back to it and fulfill it. And I spoke earlier about my friend who had a daughter who was reading it, and it was really just her. Her name was Kendra, and she now plays a role in the book, starting it because that's Kendra backwards. She's the one who inspired me to go on to writing book 2, because it was just, she was so happy with it that it made me want to put that extra effort in to take it to the next step. So you may not even know where you want to go, but look for something to make you want to go, and then just start writing.
Gotcha. This has been our chat on Talking Books and Writing and Stuff with Glenn Murdock from Hamilton, Ontario. Let's hear that website one more time.
www.doriedaydream.com.
Glenn Murdock, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Dennis.
Thank you for visiting with us today. This is Talking Books and Stuff with Dennis Rimmer. Contact him at dennis@talkingbooks.tk. Thank you, and may all the good news be yours. Oh, and don't forget to check out his book, The Great Canadian Notebook, available across Canada and at amazon.ca.